pedómetros en su cintura. ¿Qué estaban haciendo? Sassoon. Okay.
My name is Catarina Brito, and I'm the bilingual program developer for DC Public Schools. DCPS has 8 schools that have dual language programs, and each of those 8 schools teaches 50% of the grade level content in Spanish and 50% of grade level content in English. As I mentioned, we have 8 schools with these programs. They go from preschool through 8th grade currently, and we're hoping eventually to expand all the way through high school. There are about 2,000 children in the programs right now, and the programs are very well received by the public. They're in high demand, so there's a possibility that we would try to expand and offer more of these programs in the future.
My name is Marta Palacios, and I'm the principal at Bruce Monroe at Parkview Elementary School. ESL is taught to English language learners, but in many cases, for these students to gain the proficiency in the language, the English language, it takes so long. And we think that by providing right away the instruction in their native language, we don't have to wait until they become proficient in English. So the philosophy is that when they are learning in their native language, they will be able to transfer whatever they learn into the second language, which is English.
My name is Sarah Shin. I'm professor of education and co-director of the MA TESOL program at UMBC, University of Maryland, Baltimore County. So what bilingual education does is, you know, when students come in, they're learning literacy, learning how to read and write in the language. It is best if you can teach students to read and write in a language that they already speak.
La palabra que quiero que veas es decisivo. Decisivo. Entonces, alguien que es decisivo toma decisiones, ¿ok?
It's just amazing to see kids learn another language and master it and be exposed not only to a different language, but to the culture of that language, especially Spanish at my school, because it's a language that is required in many job positions here. And it's definitely a skill that will benefit the kids if they continue in bilingual education.
Y también quiero que miren esta palabra acá. Dedicado.
I'm Linda Chavez, and I'm chairman of the Center for Equal Opportunity. I've been involved as a critic of bilingual education for many, many years, going back really to the mid-1970s. Dual language immersion is actually a very effective technique for learning a second language. But the controversy is whether or not you should take immigrant children for whom English is not the first language, and instead of getting them quickly immersed in English and spending their entire day learning English and learning in English, but spend half of their day learning in their native language, all of the really well-done studies that really look at the kind of progress made show that English immersion, if it is done properly, not just throwing kids in a classroom and hoping they're going to learn English, but actually teaching them English while they are learning their lessons in English, that is the most effective, quickest way for a non-English speaker to acquire the language.
¿Por qué los niños asisten a una escuela bilingüe?
Porque, bueno, para mi ver es muy importante para su futuro. Obtienen más beneficios, pienso yo, 2 idiomas y pues les ayuda mucho. Más nosotros que somos hispanos es mejor que lleven ellos así, que no se les olvide el español, que sepan hablarlo, escribirlo.
If you take children who come from Spanish-speaking households, Number one, obviously they get to maintain their home language, which is really important, not only because it shows them that we're valuing their culture and their language and allowing them to maintain their communication with their families or their grandparents, but also it's important because it's showing that we value them taking that language to the next level and maintaining it.
Oh, cool. I can read it.
Yeah, you can read it.
Porque, bueno, para mí, pues, bien importante porque no los olvidamos de nuestras raíces, de dónde venimos.
Very often for students who are sort of in that kind of a situation where their native language is sort of relegated to a minority status, it's denigrated, it's not that great, you know, you leave that behind when you enter school, don't even think about that, just do everything English, English, English. Then what tends to happen is that students, I mean, it affects their self-esteem, their identity, their sense of identity, all of these things, emotional well-being, psychological well-being, plus it also affects their schooling experience.
We are a country of immigrants in which the immigrants come here and become American. When you identify as, you know, what you're trying to instill in the student, it isn't ethnic pride in their particular group. That kind of factionalism, sectarianism, frankly leads to balkanization, leads to people feeling that, you know, we're lots of different groups that have nothing in common. We have an American history, we have an American culture, we have an American language, which is English.
Si los hijos no pudieran hablar español, ¿cómo se sentiría?
La verdad, con un poco apenada, porque viniendo de padres latinos, o sea, pienso yo que tiene que hablar español, o sea,
It's a very sad situation when you walk into like a high school Spanish 1 class and you see how many Latino children are in there, and you think, you know, they came to school, they're bringing this strength with them to school, and if they're not put in bilingual programs, then often what happens is that strength is wasted, it's lost, and then they have to start all over again as teenagers learning the language of their families and their ancestors.
I do not believe the role of the public school is or should be maintaining one's attachment to one's ancestral group.
My name is Eric Ruark, and I'm the Director of Research for the Federation for American Immigration Reform. Immigrants who come to the United States traditionally not only have understood that English is the language that we speak here, but it's been something that they've desired to do, to learn English, to fit in, to be American. That's called assimilation. You know, now we see a sort of change where people are coming to the United States, foreigners are coming to the United States, and demanding that their needs be accommodated, their language needs. You know, and you need to teach my children in public schools in my native language. And I think that's a very important distinction to make, is between assimilation, which is the goal, and accommodation, which is where we seem to be heading now with these sorts of programs.
Bueno, yo trato de que ellos en mi casa, ellos no hablan inglés, solo hablan español. Entonces yo les digo que en la escuela hablen inglés y en la casa, o cuando lo necesitemos.
You know, a lot of people will say, oh, you know, bilingual education, they're over here, they should be learning English now. But bilingual education is one pathway to learning English. So for Spanish-dominant children, they're maintaining their home language, plus they're adding English on. They're able to develop cognitively, and keep up at their appropriate grade level work, because they're able to do some of it in a language that's familiar for them.
Certainly, it can close the gap, but you know what it should work towards is the goal of teaching these kids to speak in English and to be placed in an English-only class. In the public schools, we should be speaking English, and at home, children can speak whatever it is that they choose to speak.
I feel very proud doing what I'm doing right now because I feel a connection with these kids, seeing how I grew up in a household where I only spoke Spanish, didn't know very much English, and it wasn't until I got into elementary school where I started to learn English. So I feel a connection with the kids and a strong connection with bilingual education because I feel that the reason I'm successful was because of that.
Pues para llevar una mejor vida, sacar adelante a mi familia.
Vine de 15 años vine. Él dijo que le gustaba mejor para aquí, para mí, y no allá, porque allá hay mucha delincuencia y todo eso.
I'm not from this country, I'm a foreigner, and when I had my first child, I was completely lost that I didn't know the educational system of this country until I found a school that embraced me and wanted me to participate. So I try to do the same thing, especially with immigrant parents.
Oh, es muy importante porque ellos, a ir a un lugar, ellos, bueno, pueden ayudar a cualquier gente que no sepa hablar inglés, les enseñan, les ayudan.
Yo estoy bien, estoy contenta con el progreso de mis hijos. Aquí les han ayudado mucho. Y pues para mí es muy importante que sepan hablar los dos idiomas.